welcome back to The Watch. And what did we just watch?
Tonight.
Wheel of Time episode 3. And I have notes. Lots of notes. So, this is probably my least favourite episode so far.
Me
Really?
too.
I enjoyed it more than the last one.
Really?
Because you thought the episode 2 was a bit of a drag,
Yep.
didn't you?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Tell us why, Nathan.
I liked this one because they split off and you had more than one story to follow.
Okay.
And so each time a beat was kind of dropping, you could go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was engaged a bit more with this one. And I don't know, I felt like characters, because they had separated, they became like less just all complaining together and more like separate in their personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the split off was good, like with those... Yes, Oz?
Well, I agree with you, but like the split, like when you approach a boring part of a story, you just flip to the other one, right?
Yeah.
Like the Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. The problem with this one is that every character is boring in the show right now. In episode 2, at least.
Well, see, I think some of the
three.
characters improved a little bit for episode 3, but there were underlining issues that I didn't like. Again, two things. Big fan of the book, trying to also separate thing and look objectively. In terms of how much I liked it as a fan of the series, I hated this. There is my most despised part of this adaptation in this episode by far.
What happened?
Okay.
We'll get there. But
You know what's funny though? I feel like from last week, you've influenced me.
yeah.
And so I enjoyed this one more because they started saying things that you mentioned last week. And so I went, oh, that's what Shad told me about. This is exciting.
Like what? Like...
Was it this one or...
Because the
Did they get mixed up?
Aiel I mentioned in this episode.
Yeah, and how... what else was mentioned?
There was a caravan of people. I didn't like that part.
You didn't like that part?
It's boring.
Well, we're going to go through it chronologically,
Yeah.
and maybe they'll come up as
Yeah, I
we're
was
going
trying to
through.
remember what the things you said.
Because
Yeah.
that's interesting. So, all right, as a fan of the books, there's an atrocity of epic proportions in this episode.
Is it the Amazon Wheel of Time series?
And there's a specific thing, and like, all right, if I try and separate myself, obviously it wasn't that bad. I'd probably give it 4 or 5 out of 10.
Okay.
But still didn't like it. Now, don't get us wrong, okay? This show at the moment for me isn't a complete loss because episode 4, which we'll get to reviewing, was my favourite one so far.
Me too.
Same.
Yeah, like some really strong, interesting things. Not to say it wasn't perfect. There's still things to talk about. Now, before we go into the bit by bit, like the detailed breakdown, there's a couple of broader things that I wanted to address. Because one of the things that I really like about doing episode by episode, we get to read the comments, get your feedback, and also hear some of the suggestions or kind of discussion that happens from it. Now, one of the things that come up is that people have been saying that Amazon is also making little shorts, like little animated shorts or whatever, in between episodes and stuff. I'm actually purposely not watching them because I feel a show should be able to stand on its own merit and not rely on external source material for it to make sense or to be good.
Yes.
Oh man, I completely agree with you.
Thank you. And so to say that, oh, this and that is explained in the shorts is not good if it's not explained in the core show and there's fundamental plot points that are relying on certain information that isn't presented or told to the audience, all right? Now, if these were kind of little things beginning of the episode before, and it's funny, the show's already kind of doing that where it goes to a different time or a different character background at the beginning of the intro and we get some backstory or something like that.
But if they're short,
They could
why
have
not just
actually
put them in the video?
exactly,
in the movie?
especially if it's essential information.
Yeah.
But relying on people to go outside of the show to get this information, because this is where people are saying the two halves of the power side are and Sidina confirmed.
In the show,
In the
though.
show, it's not yet.
If it's not in the show.
I hope it's part of the canon of the show, but how they're portraying it at the moment,
Doesn't seem like it.
well, so far it's not confirmed. So that's my thoughts on that, about this external material. I actually think if the show is relying on it, that's not a good sign, all right? It needs to have good enough, solid enough writing to contextualize the world to make sure the plots and the conflicts are making sense.
Part of me thinks, did they make those to, like, did they watch through the season and went, oh, there's plot points we need to fix? Yeah, they made little
maybe.
shorts in between to fix the mistakes.
No, that actually could be it. That could be it.
Could be it.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Disney does this with Star Wars all the time,
Oh, yeah.
where Rian Johnson comes in and just butchers
Oh, it was a 1 in a
Star
million
Wars
shot.
canon and everything, and then and they've also tried to do this, of course, with Rise of Skywalker to try and explain how Palpatine survived more logically. And so there's external, like in the comics or
Yeah,
something,
got
where
books and novels and-
people with more insight and talent than the writers of the movies tried to fix the dumpster fire that was left for them. Hopefully that's not the case, but it's a bad sign if it is, because gosh,
that's the
if
case.
these were made after the case, it's like
Shad, it was.
we don't know. We need
This show was clearly made by unskilled filmmakers.
No, there are some strong points. There are like it's funny. They get some things that are just bafflingly wrong, and you think who was writing this crap, but then they do something actually clever that is intelligent. And so
Like what?
There are some. I'll point out in a bit by bit that there are some lines that are actually. That's a good line.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and
I've not yet seen.
well, I got my notes. I come with
yeah,
receipts.
I have the document.
I do. I've made the documents in this case. So, all right. The next broad thing that I want to address before we get into the nitty gritty is one of the excuses. I like this rings to me as an excuse, and I hate it, where they've tried to explain the changes in the show compared to the book as that this is just another turning of the wheel. And so
But the exact same names showed up,
Well,
and it's very similar
no,
circumstances.
so a couple of background, all right, because there's some validity. I still don't like it, but there's some validity to the turning of the wheel. All right, the actual mythology of the Wheel of Time is that certain events do replay itself, and there's even, I won't go spoilers, but there's even a point where a character kind of gets to relive these turnings in fast succession and stuff, and it gets to see minor changes and everything. This is the issue, okay? True fans, they didn't want a reinterpretation, a
They
depiction.
wanted the Wheel of Time.
Yeah, they didn't want. I don't want a depiction of another turning of the wheel where you get licensed to change whatever the hell you want. I wanted a depiction of the same turning of the wheel that's in the friggin' books. Okay, doesn't give you a license. Sorry, I'm okay. To change whatever the hell you want.
They gave him cancer.
I hate that excuse. It just means it's another turning the wheel so we can butcher key
Trying to
important
get out of
points.
the mistakes.
Yeah, it's like, no. Don't let them get away with that. We don't want another turning of the wheel where you can change willy-nilly. We want to see the same turning of the wheel that the book was depicting as accurate as possible. Of course, changes have to be made because of medium, but certain changes don't. Like, for real. And we've already discussed it. Why, for the structure of the story and how good the story was, why did they need to make the dragon male or female?
Because it's 2020.
It ruins the mythology, as we already talked about. It has serious problems with the setups and payoffs of the dragon reborn and who it's meant to be. That he's going to go crazy because it's a man, and man channeling Sidene go crazy, and now it messes up a lot. So it doesn't help the story. It's actually made it objectively worse than what we already had. So why change it? Obviously, it's to fit a certain
brand of politics.
and because it doesn't improve it. And the excuses I've heard some of the people trying to say is that the showrunner was like, we did this for... I've read that reason. I can't remember, but I remember reading it again, and I was like, no, that's not a good reason. And it felt very trying to reach for an excuse to hide the real reason that's so obvious and in everyone's face. No, what it was, I think it was like... they wanted it that the prophecies of the dragon, not everyone kind of believes, and it was like, why does that mean that you make it ambiguous if the dragon's going to be... No. And by the way, the fact that in the book, the prophecy of the dragon were believed and solid added depth and suspense and tension to what the dragon was going to do. And also, it was really fun because the prophecies were ambiguous, and then we get to see how they play out, where it's like, oh, it matches perfectly, right? But they were cryptic and stuff. It was really well written because of that. But now they've literally made that no one really believes all the prophecies. Again, objectively worse than what was already there, and to try and now they're trying to use that excuse to try and say, well, that's why the people don't know if it's a man or a woman, because they don't really believe the prophecies.
Sounds like obfuscation
Yeah.
and lies.
Like, it's just excuses, reaching, it's a smokescreen to hide the obvious reason.
That they're going to change
blatant.
the gender of the dragon to a man. Oh,
No.
I think they will.
99% they won't. If they do, trust me, like I said, we're knights for a reason. We will crusade, all right? Because that's not odd. No, you do not change Wheel of Time that much, all right?
They will.
No.
I'm calling it now. The dragon will be a woman.
No, I won't.
I'm calling it right this second. Right this second, I'm calling it.
Oh boy. Oh.
I want to see that video of Night's
Oh
Watch.
boy.
Shad's.
You want to see? You think I've raged? You think you've seen me rage?
It'll be 10 minutes of Shad just screaming
Just, "Ah!"
without taking a breath.
Like, I'll be.
He'll turn into the dragon.
We will do a skit of me outside smashing things in rage. Like,
But it won't be a skit. It'll be real.
yes, it'll be real passion. All right. So, just some examples of making changes that actually are worse, and the only reasons are for agenda, and we can judge what this worked really well in the book. This is worse, and then the excuse that is another turning of the wheel, and now that's not to say there aren't good things in the show. At the moment, I would rate, well, I'm up to episode 4. Mm-hmm. I would give it still maybe a 6. You potentially push to a 7, but that means it's actually good. Episode 4, I would almost call really good. Not great. You could push me to really good. But there are other episodes that are worse. And episode 3 is pretty bad in my opinion, and we'll break it. So now let's go into the breaking down. Now, there's a broad, talk about episode 3, there is an issue I have, which comes up multiple times, all right? The characters are now in a new position. They're separated, and they don't have Moiraine at their back. What are they going to do? We see Matt and Rand discuss this. We see Perrin and Egwene discuss this. Then it comes up again later with Matt and Rand. And
I remember the episode now.
you remember the yeah. And it's where are they going to go? Should they go back home? And I'm watching this like, what do you mean go back home? It's like, you did realize there was an army of 300 Trollocs chasing you. They didn't disappear. And so...
I mean, they kind of did, though.
Well, they did. Well, that, exactly, right? But in the book, no. Right? Like, yeah, they're kind of, gotten away, but you've got to be careful of drawing attention to yourself at it, because the Dark One's obviously still after you. Another thing that hasn't come up in the series, in opposed to the book actually mentions the Dark One has informants, right? Not just dark friends that are people, but any type of animal that feeds off the flesh of people is considered like an evil animal. Rats, ravens, and things.
Wow.
Do you like that?
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
That's cool.
Wouldn't it be great if it was in the show? But it's not.
Yeah, because Shad, the show sucks.
It has
does.
sucky elements. I'll grant.
I'd say episode 4 brought the show up to a 4 for me, but that's coming up from a 2. Okay?
So they have to be really careful about the Dark One getting information of where they are and stuff still. And so the book was really clear. It's like, you're getting hunted. You need to regroup and find a way to escape. And in the book, they don't know why they're being hunted. And in the show, they are not selling the fact that, one of us is the Dragon Reborn. They're not reacting to it properly or anything like that. So I won't rehash the annoyance with and the problems with that. But instead of trying to say the obvious answer, the Dark One's still hunting us. If we go back, they might just attack Emond's Field again. We'll be screwed. It's like, Rand is, I'm going to Tar Valon because Egwene's going to be at Tar Valon. I'm going to follow Egwene. And Matt's like, I just want to go home. And I want to just... No, Matt! You don't want to go home! You care for your sisters? Well, if you go home, the Trollocs will attack again, you moron! It's like, the whole episode, Matt is actually trying to find a way back to Emond's Field until the very end. And then Perrin and Egwene wants to be an Aes Sedai. She's done. She's like, I'm going to the White Tower. And then she's like, Rand will probably go home, and then Perrin's like, no, not Rand, he's going to follow. And so they're portraying Rand as being pretty simpy in this episode. He's just going to follow Egwene.
I'm sick of everyone calling Rand a simp.
But I think, like...
In this episode, he is. I thought in episode 2 he wasn't. Good on you, Rand.
Because you realise that, like, the female love pursuit of the hero is the anima. It's the...
Well, but see, I agree, but it needs to be justified. I don't think it's justified in this episode.
They literally had sex in a relationship for multiple years.
Then she dumped him, and he was like, I'm done, like, give me some time to process. Good on him. And now he's like, I will go wherever you go. Tarvolin, I'm following.
Well, where should they go if they can't go home?
Well, this is the thing. The episode is kind of establishing that they could go home, even though they shouldn't be able to because they're being hunted by Trollocs.
Yeah, no.
But Rand chooses not to because he wants to follow Egwene.
Yes, but you said they can't go home because the Trollocs are coming for
But
them.
the episode is actually saying they had that option. I'm saying
No.
that's bad writing.
Of course, if they have the option. It'll kill a bunch of people because the Trollocs will attack again. But they have that option. But you're saying they shouldn't because the Trollocs will attack again.
Yes.
Okay, so if they don't go home and they don't go where Egwene goes, where should they go?
Yeah, that's the crux. What arises in the book? Where do they go for safety?
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, we need to meet up with Moiraine. She's the only one who seemed to be able to protect us. Where was the point where we're going to meet up? Now, in the show, they're saying Tarvalin. In the book, it was Camelin is the capital city. And so, yeah, Rand meets some important people in Camelin. I'm not sure if that's even going to be in the show now, which is going to be upsetting.
There's a lot of things.
I was looking forward to seeing some of that's one of the fun things about having a live action adaptation of a property you really love, because you want to see depicted in live action certain scenes and characters that you really like to see. But now, like, how does he get it? There's a great character he meets in Camelin who's really important.
I'm sure.
And he becomes a regular, and then he meets other people. But this character, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, is he, like, because you're going to introduce him somehow. But how's he going to meet Loyal now? Loyal is So you don't even know who Loyal is.
I don't know who it is, but it's just like... Oh.
Loyal's great. Oh, gosh.
No, but Shad, like... I said this before, and I'll say it again, and it's always true. They're going to destroy everything you love. So just deal with it.
I have hope, because there are some good shows being made. Like, Invincible is an example of a good show recently. And another one, yes, we will be getting to review Arcane.
Okay.
Have you been watching it?
I have been.
It's good. At first it started slow,
Yeah.
but as soon as the episode 3 hit, oh boy. Oh boy! So yeah, definitely we'll be reviewing Arcane. And what a good example of strong female characters, right? Like,
They are. I agree.
yeah, done right.
Jinx is female?
Yes.
I thought it was a dude in a wig.
No, she's actually very female.
Just the newest...
No, even the newest. And I think they changed it in the game to match the depiction of the show.
That's my
'Cause that's
point.
No, I don't think the depiction of the show is awful.
Did I show you the image or not?
Yeah, it's still very attractive. It's not like,
I'll have to see it myself.
Yeah, we'll have a look.
Let's have a look, actually.
So, still, thank goodness there's some good stuff being made as well. And I don't think this show is a lost cause, but of course there are issues with it. So going back to the overall thing, where the only reason why Rand is choosing to go to Tarvalin is to follow Egwene, it's just... They just forgot about the Trollocs, and I'm watching them wanting to slap them. It's like it's such an easy and obvious motivation. Let's escape the people hunting us.
People.
That's fair. I mean,
Monsters.
to be honest, I forgot as well that they were being chased. But at the same time, when you point that out, Shad, I'm like, good idea. Yeah. I'm not going to go back home where my whole village got destroyed when I was there, so it's smarter to go somewhere safer.
And they have undeniable proof that the Trollocs are after them.
Because they were.
Like, very passionately so. So,
I know what's going to happen now.
What?
It's episode 4. I know what's going to happen in episode 5 of Wheel of Time. I realise.
Well, tell us when we're reviewing episode 4.
Yeah.
We had to get to episode before episode 5 comes out. We've been doing a bit of catch up. So, going back, it's a flashback. How Nynaeve escapes. Okay? I don't really have any major objections with it. I think it was done fairly well. It showed Nynaeve. She hides. She's not super powerful. She's getting overpowered by the Trolloc, so she has to adapt for being obviously not as trained, not as strong. Like we saw Lan taking on Trollocs one at a time, taking him out. Rand and his father are able to take out a Trolloc by themselves. Nynaeve, she's unarmed, she's got no hope, she tries to escape, she can't, she hides, the Trolloc is looking for her in the ponds, she goes underwater, then she sneaks up behind the Trolloc, steals it, and just,
Sneak attack.
Sneak attacks it. That was great. And it showed Nynaeve, like, she's not super overpowered. We'll get to the overpowered. By the way, that's not necessarily a complaint either. But in terms of strength, physical capacity, not overblown. She had to work within her weaknesses. She does it effectively. She's capable and aggressive, and she's ready to fight and to save lives. And so I'm actually quite happy with how they're doing Nynaeve in the show. At this point, it was like, cool. No major complaints. I think it was a good opening. It explained how she survived, and overall, not bad.
I agree.
Cuts back to Nynaeve and Lan.
Mm-hmm.
So Nynaeve, has the drop on him. She makes a mistake, like, letting him have a bit of distance. I can't remember exactly, but I like that. Nah, it's not happening with Lan. He just knocks her out. Like, she tries to actually attack him. It's like, you tried to kill me, showing that she's serious. And then he just knocks her out without breaking too much of a sweat. Good. Like, because she's not going to be able to take on Lan.
Mm.
Yeah, and so...
He's a warrior.
He's a warrior. He's a well-trained warrior.
She's a priestess. What is she?
She's a wisdom, and so that's basically a herbalist.
She's just a herbalist?
She's the town wise woman.
And she managed to kill a Trolloc and track a warrior?
Yeah.
How the hell did she do that?
She's aggressive. She's like...
She make a potion of strength and a potion of tracking?
It wasn't easy for her. She struggled with it.
I know it might have not been easy, but she, tracked him at night time.
No, it was over several days, actually.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
she left at night time and she arrived at night time, so...
But the tracking is explained better in the books because her dad taught her how to track.
Okay, that would have been useful information.
It would have been.
Because I've just seen her disappear at night time and show up with a knife in his stomach.
And Lan he asked her in this episode, how did she track him? And then even in episode 4, he actually asked her again, and she's not telling him. And the show hasn't provided a good explanation.
You're not telling us either.
Because Nynaeve was an orphan, and she was brought to the Two Rivers by the previous wisdom. Now they changed that in the book. Mm-hmm. Her dad taught her how to track.
No, she's just in this one though. She's just ultra skilled.
Look, they can give her explain how she learned how to track, but we just haven't been given that information yet.
So until then,
Exactly. And so she was able to track them and kill the Trolloc. I think can be justified, and I think they sold her how she killed the Trolloc perfectly well. So no complaints there. But then she can't hold up to Lan because Lan's is Lan. Mm. And so again, that's a good sign that they're not denigrating Lan. They're not making any character unreasonably overpowered. They're sticking within their capacity for the most part. If there's anything if they do something that they are justified with, we'll call it out. Or if they do something where they should have been able to do something and they didn't because of backstory, we'll also call that out. But so far, so good. Now, there's an interesting thing where Lan then asks Nynaeve to help Moiraine. And she says, you think I'm going to help her? I've mixed feelings on this, okay? Nynaeve usually would always help anyone, but she hates Moiraine, and that is in the book. She even I think she threatens to kill Moiraine at different points.
Why?
Why what?
Why does she hate Moiraine?
Oh, well, she thinks she's doing something really nefarious with the Three Emmons Fielders, that she's stealing them away for her own ends. And then she thinks she wants to use who ends up being revealed as the Dragon Reborn. And so Nynaeve does not trust Moiraine, and she's got a big issue with her throughout the whole book. And it kind of gets... Well, actually, I won't spoil anything, and we don't know what they'll do in the show either. And so that's in line. She hates Moiraine. And so her hatred might overcome her, but usually Nynaeve, she will try and heal bandits that attacked them. Okay, like she's that much of a healer.
But screw this woman, this part of the Aes Sedai.
So when I was like, I wasn't really sold on that. I was like, is that really in line with Nynaeve's character? I don't know. It kind of like because I think she from memory, correct me, because it's been a while since I read all the books, but I think she even threatens Moiraine to kill her at certain points. And so if that's the case, it's not really outside of her character. But I like that there is a need, like, you know, where Lan is like, you are a healer, she's in trouble. And so it creates a good kind of dynamic already between Lan and Nynaeve that's forcing it. Like, I need your help, you're a healer.
That was gross when it happened, popping
The thing up.
Oh.
It looked real. It was like, yeah.
Some people get...
I know it looked gross, but
Yeah.
I liked that it was, you know.
You know that some people get weird satisfaction out of that? Seeing
I know.
It's like, why? I guess some people get satisfaction out of murdering other people too, so, you know. That's the worst thing.
So there are small things that I notice and stuff which is not relevant to the story, but like the design of the swords. This is my Shadowversity side coming out, and we see Rand. He has like this interesting double quiver, where he's keeping his bow strung, and it's not a longbow. And this is the Two Rivers are known for longbows. Mm-hmm. In fact, when the Two Rivers start to fight and everything, the men get known for using what they call the Two Rivers longbow. Now, I've recently done a video on the longbow on Shadowversity, debunking a lot of the myths. The longbow is, you can get as strong shorter bows, and so there's this misconception that longbows are always higher poundage than shorter bows, and the Wheel of Time actually kind of goes that way as well. The Two Rivers longbow is just a crazy powerful bow that the Two Rivers use because they like them and stuff. And so if they're being true to the books, Rand's bow should be like... Matt gets teased at certain points from other people when they see him with his bow. It's like, that's not a bow, that's a walking staff, you know? It's like a club. Why do you carry that thing around? And so Rand's bow, it's not what the Two Rivers longbow. It's supposed to be this really chunky, big thing.
How do they pull it?
Get strong.
Oh,
Train.
yeah.
It's like, I'm experiencing that myself.
Touch grass.
And so I kind of like the design of the quiver. It's got a thing for the bow, thing for the arrows, but the bows, they get away with it because the bow's so small. And I wonder if they made the bow small to fit the quiver, but then it's not accurate to the books. And when you see Rand pulling it, this flimsy, weak little bow, and it's just...
It's a Two Rivers bow.
It's supposed to be a Two Rivers longbow. This big, chunky, meaty, thick piece of wood.
I'm sorry they don't have your favourite piece of shaft.
I know.
I mean,
I just love thick pieces of wood so much.
you saw Rand pull his shaft and it wasn't strong enough.
It wasn't strong enough.
It wasn't meaty or thick enough.
So anyway, we got to see his double quiver thingy, and it's like, I do mind this, but I have more complicated feelings on it. Alright, so Perrin and Egwene, they're running, they think they're being chased by wolves, and it's fun. I had this observation before I saw episode 4, and episode 4 takes this and just amps it by 1,000. She's trying to light a fire. Perrin's trying to light a fire, and she decides she'll just... And suddenly, it's implied that the characters don't know who lit the fire, but when you're watching it, it's pretty clear it's Egwene that just magicked the fire. Throughout the entire first book, both Egwene and Nynaeve can't channel spit. They're just trying to learn. The most that Egwene does is be able to make a gem glow just to prove that, oh, you can touch the power. That's basically it. They can't channel a thing. And so the level of, Nynaeve learning, and I'll have more comments on this in episode 4 for obvious reasons, like, wow. They're getting access to the power a lot quicker than in the books.
Oh yeah, in episode 4.
Yeah, you just remembered?
Yeah.
I just realised too.
Okay.
Yeah. It takes them way longer.
They're really blazing through this series, aren't they?
So I wonder how fast they're trying to push with that and things. The thing is though, well, look, I'll save that commentary for episode 4, because there is some fun discussion about power levels that will be cool. But yeah, even in episode 3, I was like, I thought just lighting the fire was too soon. I was like, they're really, like, just... Because in the books, it's hard to learn how to do this stuff. They really need instruction. And they can only do a couple of things instinctively. Like, people who learn the one power by themselves, they're called wilders, they end up creating all these issues with using the power, and it's usually blocks where like you could only touch the power if you're laughing at because or you could only touch the power if you're wearing a certain dress, because they create these weird blocks where they think they need to do these things to touch the power, and then it creates this mental thing that they can only do it, and they have to work through all these problems to be able to touch it naturally. And that's what happens when you learn the power by yourself. And so in the show, they're showing Egwene learning how to fire stuff just on her own. And there are a couple of instinctive weaves that, wilders learn naturally, but then they develop the blocks as well and stuff. And so I'm not saying they can't learn weaves instinctively, but learning any weave, like Egwene, I want fire, I'll just try and cast fire, and now I can do it. So, no, that's...
I cast fire.
Like, Nynaeve's a healer, right? And so this is stuff that should have already been established in the show, because it's established in the books pretty early on, that Nynaeve's poultices and potions work unnaturally well.
Right.
Like, they help people more than what they really should. And we learn out that Nynaeve is actually, she's kind of doing something that I'll speak more on in episode 4. But it's really subtle, okay, in the books, and they're not doing that in the show. Now, I'm not necessarily going to say this is a failing in the show, because they do need to move faster.
Yeah, but they're slow in points too. I feel like this whole episode doesn't have to be there. Because you're going straight to 4.
No, because there's important things that do need to be established, I think. Character progression, and also, the whole scene, we'll get to the scene with the Dark Friend, that's a weird scene.
That whole thing was stupid.
It was executed poorly, and this is where the show really fails. The show fails bad on 3 big things for me. The Dark Friend, the overall motivations of where are we going to go, and it's like, no, you're trying to escape Trollocs and get to safety. That's what it should be. But then they're like, we're just going to follow Egwene because she wants to be a nice guy. That's dumb. And the big one, we'll get there.
The big one?
The big one.
What did they do to my boy?
What?
I'll explain
Gleeman?
that.
Okay.
I'll explain that
Gleeman?
comment.
Is it Gleeman?
It is,
Is it
isn't
Gleeman? Because I actually don't mind Gleeman. I don't like
I'm really interested to see your reactions to him.
Okay.
Because, okay, let's just get it out of the way.
Okay, fine.
All right, what did you think of the Gleeman, Thom Merrilin?
Episode 3 Gleeman was kind of lame, but episode 4 Gleeman was actually great.
Yeah. No, I agree.
That's fine. What did they do to Gleeman?
He is nothing like you in the books.
What's Gleeman like in the books?
Oh,
Is he really cool?
in a flamboyant way, but yeah.
Like Yaskier or Dandelion?
We'll get to it chronologically.
Okay.
We'll get to it chronologically, but I've got lots to say. So anyway, yeah, episode 3 fails on those big 3 things for me. So then we see Nynaeve, she's actually cutting the materials to help, and so that shows that she's a herbalist, that's how she works. It's like, yeah, that's good. Though, weird things that stand out to you sometimes? She's this tiny little flower, right? And she could have just pulled it, but she grabs the flower, brings down a knife and cuts it with a knife. I'm thinking, that's a little delicate.
I do stuff like that too, just for the hell of it.
Just for the hell
if
of it?
I've got a box that I can easily open, I'll just still get my little hobby knife again.
Because
It's just satisfying.
All right.
It's like surgeons, they could use a massive
You're
knife.
defending something in the shows?
Well, just because, yeah, why not?
Good.
I do it.
Look at how objective he is. And he will even defend something he dislikes for objective, logical reasons.
I related to him. Like, hey, I'm autistic like that too.
Okay. See, because then she cut something bark from a tree. It's like, okay, that would need a knife. But when I saw the flower, I was like, maybe she's just got like one of those. I like cutting things.
That's fine. Well, if you all you have is a knife, everything's going to look like. If you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you've got a knife, everything's something you want to cut. She even tried to cut land when she first saw it.
True.
Okay. We've already talked about Lan wanting to know how, but this is where Lan is like, "How did you track me?" And she doesn't tell him and stuff. Moves on a little further, where Nynaeve mentions the water bond, and you feel what she feels and stuff. I actually really liked how they showed like Lan's reaction. He does react when she's draining thing. Like he can sense what Moiraine is feeling. It's like, that's a good depiction of the water bond. In actual fact, I think they're depicting the water bond in the show generally really well. More about this in episode 4, but episode 4, how they showed the waters and the water bond, really good. I was like,
The water bond.
so the warders, right?
Oh, water bond. I thought it said water bond.
Water bond.
It's just an
It's like
accent.
I thought it was type of paint.
Ung comes in and he starts bending water, and then he
Ung. Yeah, they do the dance.
Avatar.
the avatar.
The avatar. More like avatar.
So just to trigger you guys. No, so yeah, you know, the warders are bonded, and they actually, it's interesting. They get slightly stronger, but they are able to heal faster. Like this bond actually enhances some aspects of their physical abilities, but then they can sense where each other are, wherever they are.
And their status. Like how they're doing.
Well, emotions and things.
Well, like, you know, like let's say, like, Nathan, if you were my water and Shad just straight up slit my throat, you would feel that. Not feel
You
it,
would
but you'd
sense
know.
it, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
sense your pain.
Yeah.
So, Perrin, he has a bit of a dream, but and then oh no, I can't remember what this dream was, because I remember episode 4 dream, but I don't really remember episode 3.
They have a lot of dreams, don't they?
Dreams are important, though. In the book, the dreams are kind of, in the show, that they're rehashing the same thing, where weird things are happening, and then fiery face, wake up.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I remember that one.
But
Fireface.
the fire face, the guy where he opens his mouth and it's got fire. In the book, they happen a bit differently, where the guy actually speaks to them.
Ooh.
And there's some dialogue happening, and it's ominous and stuff.
That's more sinister.
It is more sinister, but we're not there yet. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll still do it in the show. But it outlines the motivations and also explains what the Dark One knows about them pretty well with the dream sequences in the book. We're not getting that in the show. And so things are still up in the air as a result. Egwene, she doesn't really have the dream, because it only really shows Perrin reacting to it. And again, this is one of the problems with making Egwene potentially a dragon, and there's a larger conversation about her being Tarviran now, right?
Yeah.
There was some good comments saying this actually lessens her character somewhat by making her Tarviran, because in the book, Egwene achieved some really cool stuff, and it was all thanks to her gumption and pushing to do it, and you couldn't just excuse it as it's the Ta'Viran warping to pattern. It's happening to you because you're a plot magnet. And so it was more accounted to her. Granted, she was in the wake of the Ta'Viran effect of some of the boys, which might have warped things in her favour as well. But a lot of it was still just her going and doing stuff. And it came off really strongly because...
Maybe they've just completely misunderstood that, though. Because they would see, the Ta'Viran, so the world changes around them. That must mean they're a powerful character. That must mean being Ta'Viran is good. You know, it's like
and it's sexist if we don't have a female Ta'Viran. So
that's my point.
We've got to have
that's
a female
how they
Ta'Viran.
think, though, because they're not thinking. No, it's like it's a bit of a handicap in the positive light. Like they get a bit of a boost for it. Not that she has done a lot more because she's not Ta'Viran. They won't see it that way.
Yeah, and it lessens her character somewhat. Now, all the good things or things she achieves can be just waved away as well. It's because she's Ta'Viran,
She's
right?
Ta'Viran. So that's
You know?
And she's the dragon too.
And so there are larger issues with the changes they've made in making Egwene Ta'Viran now, and again, I hate that. How does Moiraine know that they're Ta'Viran yet? She hasn't interacted with these people at all. Like, it was so cool to find that out in the book, where they're explaining this happened, and then I already mentioned it's like Loyal that brings us like, you're Ta'Viran, and they're like, holy crap, and you're Arena, like, and then they explain what a Ta'Viran is. It's like, we don't get any of that. In fact, people who are only watching the show, they have no friggin' idea what a Ta'Viran is yet still. The show hasn't explained a thing yet.
If you hadn't told me, I would think a Ta'Viran is like where they're from.
Yeah.
I thought they were from Two Waters.
And if anyone says, "Oh, Shad, it's explained in a short," we've already explained why that's a.
Put it in the show.
Put it in the show.
It's short. It's like, can I just, a little bit of a side
And that's
note
probably
here?
not. But again, like that's why I'm not watching those shorts.
The reason I so understand what you're talking about, Shad, is that you have to read 3 books to understand the plot of Halo 4. 3 books, yeah. So I understand completely how you feel. Do you want to freak out about Halo?
Halo was? Really?
I'm starting to love it.
Okay, so another thing, I don't like this, and it's one of those changes where I can see the logic they're thinking, but it doesn't make it better. Cursing. Okay? Cursing. So the characters in the show are saying S-H-I-T.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And they say it multiple times in this episode and stuff. the thing is, the books have none of that. The books have their own type of cursing.
That
Blood
gets
and
me.
bloody ashes. And
Bloody!
it's like Matt particularly says like blood and bloody ashes, and then Nynaeve's like, "What's your language?" And they react to it like, and so the book has set up profanity really, really well. And what's great, one of the characters, and she's this delicate female, right, who's really prim and proper. She ends up collecting curse words and everything, and then she starts to get a really foul mouth, and she's this really prim proper thing.
I want to
And
marry this lady.
it's great, and like she gets this really like she hears this really weird one, and in the book she's like she hears it for the first time, she's like, and she mouths it out. It's good. Someone curses and they say "mother's milk in a cup," like "oh, mother's milk in a cup," and she hears it and she's like. And then later on, she says, she's like, "Oh, mother," and everyone's like, like reacting really strongly, like it's like she said, "Drop the N-word" or something.
Yeah.
And so, the book, it does it so great, where it's able to set up really offensive things that isn't offensive to a modern sensibility because they're not our swear words, and so it's more PG, or even it's more appropriate for a younger audience and stuff. But in the books, so it works so well. But now they've gotten rid of that and they just have added in real world swearing.
Yeah, because they want to get the same effect, but they don't want to use any of the creativity or nuance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They want the audience to react to the swearing, where the book did a much more clever approach where they wanted the characters in world to react to inform the audience, the readers, what these words are, and that allowed the writer, Robert Jordan, to say some really offensive cussing and curse words, right, that are in context for the world that wouldn't hit us or need to be censored and everything. And so, because it's the thing, right? There are people in the real world who say some really offensive words, like the N-word.
Oh, well,
Like the N-word, or the offensive, the word that means a bundle of sticks and stuff. Like,
yes.
people say that in real life, right? But they're so offensive to the modern mindset that no one is going to put that in modern media now unless you get a certain pass, like
like
Dave
South
Chappelle.
Park, Dave Chappelle.
All right, but most people never dare put it because it's so offensive to the modern audience.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Robert Jordan was able to put words that were equally as offensive in the world and put it in the books because it's not offensive to us, but have the characters react to it accordingly.
Yep. But no,
How clever is that?
It's so much better.
you did that too, didn't you?
Yeah, I have like my own list. What?
You have light and like,
Well, yeah.
blackness and...
Yeah, light and
That might
dark
be
and
offensive
everything,
now.
but I also use some real words like ASS.
SHIT.
Well, no, I don't have that, but
Oh.
ASS and bastard and things like that. I use bloody in my own book.
Bloody.
But bloody in the Wheel of Time is a swear word, and Matt gets pulled up on it all the time. It's like that's a naughty word, you know.
Ron Weasley.
But no.
I like it as well when they pull them up on their language.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "That's a bad word. You're a good person. You shouldn't say that." Or like,
Nynaeve was always trying to pull Matt up on his language.
we're like in the show now. It's just like, oh yeah, we just use that word.
Exactly.
Just another word.
They're trying to Game of Thrones it up.
And this isn't Game of Thrones.
It's not. It's Wheel of Time. Completely separate. They even stole the wheel and put it into Game of Thrones.
And so this is another perfect example, right? Where I look at this and I think, you're not improving the show by making this change. You had a great blueprint. And I get when they need to change things because of brevity and it's a different, medium. But this is not one of those things. It wouldn't have taken any longer to have them using the real... And look, sometimes you hear them say light occasionally. Not really doing it well. Because there's some other things where they get the world building and language usage wrong. For instance, I'll jump the gun because we're on the subject now, right? Everyone calls the Dark One the Dark One, except people who are on the Dark One's side.
What do they call him?
They call him the Great Lord of the Dark. And so in short, they call him the Great Lord. And if you hear anyone refer to the Dark One as the Great Lord, it's like, what? It's like, that's a clear sign that you're a dark friend and everything. Well, guess what? We have a dark friend in this episode. And she just calls him the Dark One. It's like, no, she should be calling him the Great Lord. Like, this is really important. Like, and again, it's subtle, but it's distinct, and it helps define how they react to good and evil and everything like that. And the people who are making this show, they
They don't have any subtlety.
Well, were they oblivious? Like, this is an important bit of world building that they got wrong.
Yep.
And it is important.
They don't have any subtlety.
And so, again, going back to the swearing thing, this change has not improved the show by just having more modern swearing than saying S-H-I-T. It makes it... This is supposed to be a different world. It's like when they've force-injected modern sexual standards to the characters, okay? That has not improved it. It actually makes it worse, in my opinion. And so, when I see this, it does make me question how much they respect the source material.
They don't.
Because people are trying to say they do respect the source material. If they did, why are they making changes that have made it objectively worse?
Yep.
Okay? And with this change specifically, it's not a change of necessity, like I was saying, because of brevity or thing or anything like that. They could have used their original swearing, they wouldn't have lost anything, and it would have been better. So, Matt and Rand, they actually get some good dialogue now and then. You know, it's like Matt is complaining, like, don't you think we should be going downhill? Why are we going uphill?
Yeah.
And Matt's too complainy. The thing is, though, at this point in the story, he actually should start to be too complainy for reasons that you'll find out later.
Oh, yeah.
You know, do you?
Because he's getting angry. He's going bad.
Well, don't spoil anything.
He's got the bit of the one ring sickness, you know? He's like...
Well, in episode 4, they kind of allude to it, don't they? It's already starting to reveal that something bad is happening with Matt.
Yeah.
And so if you've watched all the episodes, this isn't really a spoiler. And so Matt's attitude in the books does go downhill. They haven't portrayed Matt right, I feel, in the show, where he's not cheeky enough, he's not lighthearted enough, he's all... In the show, he's mopey, he's a thief, and he just doesn't... He's depressed. The only redeeming thing is that he cares for his sisters. But in this episode, they skew it out of proportion because he wants to get back to his sisters, but that will probably kill him because you forgot that you're getting hunted, mate.
I mean, to be fair, the show kind of forgot they're getting hunted.
Yeah, I know, right? But so there are some good lines where it's like, and then they go, why are we going uphill? Shouldn't we go down? And then, you know, when they're seeing thing, what's that? And Rand looks at them, downhill. It's like, yeah, you know,
Comical.
This is what works like this.
Yeah, but it's like, it's not hard to set something like that up.
Well, I see it's... Tell that to the writers of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, but that's like one retard saying to a high-level retard, you know.
No, there are some just good little interactions that I thought, okay, it's showing some of the character dynamics. Like, when they go to chop wood, again, Matt comes off pretty negatively in this episode. Rand comes off more positively because he's like, you know, I'll just... do the work myself. But the thing is, though, when Matt, instead of chopping wood, he goes inside and he ends up serving tables. So he's not being a complete lazy guy. He's actually helping in some way. And then he has a bit of a comeback where there's like, you know, this waitress has too much whiskers on his hair. And he says, I blunted my razor by shaving your wife's back. And so it's like, there was some good lines.
That was good. I'll give him that.
Okay, you know, so there were some good lines in this. I was like, okay. And this... gives me signs of hope, because it's not complete incompetence. There are actually signs of some competence. So that's why the show, I hope, can get better.
Shad, when we crossed the threshold into the gate of 2021, above it said, abandon all hope, ye he enter. Okay? So you shouldn't have any hope for this, nor anything else that happens in this year.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
2022 is shaping up to be a great one.
Her parents finally references a blacksmith. I think this was the first time. Did you notice
I noticed that? I was like, ha!
When did they do that?
Shad will be happy.
Was
Was he fixing stuff?
No, that was in episode 4.
4.
But I think Rand actually mentions him as a blacksmith or something. Okay, so they get to the village, because remember, that's downhill, it's the village. They get there, they don't have money. And this is, as a fan of the series, this is my most despised element in the whole show. So it's weird, because it's like, there are large changes that are problems, like the dragon being a man or woman. Hopefully they'll still play out the story as is with who the dragon's going to be accurately and things. But this is a character, and so we introduced to...
Lehman.
Thom Merrilin.
Is that the actor's name?
That's the character name. Thom.
I thought his name was Gleeman.
No, that's his occupation as a gleeman.
Oh, Thom Merrilin. Can I just call him Gleeman?
So, every time I think of Thom, the scene in The Godfather where...
You've seen The Godfather?
First one, haven't seen the second one.
Oh, nice. I saw it too. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. His son gets, like, not... If you haven't seen The Godfather by now, but anyway,
It's been like 40 years.
Yes, there's a part in the movie where the son gets blown to pieces and is brought to the Godfather father.
What have them done? You
And you see-
massacred you, my boy.
Look how they massacred my boy.
That's the thing that comes to mind whenever I think of Thom. It's like,
Why?
what have you done?
What have they done?
This is awful.
So he was a cool guy?
He was a character, an important character that ends up being really, really important, right? Thom, they meet Thom in Emond's Field at the beginning of the book. He comes to Emond's Field as a gleeman to entertain them, and it's a big thing as part of the festivities, okay, as part of Beltane, all right? And so Thom is important, okay? So Thom, described, is this more flamboyant troubadour. He's a bard, okay? And this is where, like, people say, is real-time medieval is the thing?
Oh, I see why you're upset now. Because they made him play blues.
No, they made him into this Western cowboy duster-wearing abomination that is nothing like Thom. Thom, he has this big curly moustache, and he has this gleeman's cloak. It's this big cloak, goes over his shoulder, that's made out of patches, and their version of the gleeman's cloak is his duster on the inside has patches.
yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? And then his personality, he speaks like this. I'm Thom Merrilin, I'm a gleeman, and I talk like this, and I'm a bit flamboyant, and what are you talking about, boy? You don't know if you heard this story. And so he can get into, conspiratorial and everything, but I'll give this story in high chant, and so-and-so, Brigitte, and the hunt for the horn, and is this performer who's really dedicated about the art, but he also... He can tumble, he can flip and everything because he's a performer, he can juggle, and he's really good with his hands, and that's why he's really good with daggers and things. And he is this kind of flamboyant, but also serious at times. Mm-hmm. Really great character, really distinct. Nothing is like him.
Nope.
Not at all.
I can tell you why they've done that.
Why?
It's the same reason they do all the crap with like Vikings and Game of Thrones. It's because we don't look at that anymore. That's cool.
They wanted him edgy and cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Yeah.
Thom, he's not conventionally cool, yet he grows on you because of his eccentricities, his character, and his capability. And one thing that because he does try to help out the boys, and they do his backstory justice in episode 4, where you hear some of his backstory.
Oh yeah, I actually like that part.
All right. And so Tom's backstory is really good, but there's more to him. Like, his history is really significant, okay? He's not, you find out he's not just an average gleeman.
That saying that he said, can I just say that when he said, nothing is more dangerous than a man who knows the past? I was like, yeah, man.
Isn't that great?
That's great.
Wasn't that a great line?
Did he say that in the book?
That was it, no, but that was a good line in episode 4. I was like...
That wasn't in the book.
Maybe. I can't remember every
It's got to be in the book. No Amazon writer can write something that thoroughly based. They can't.
They can without realising they're doing it.
Maybe, yeah. Just like with Loki, it's like, if anything justifies it, it's...
Yeah. What if... I hate it. I hate it so much. I can't believe they did that. And yeah, they just want to be edgy and cool, where Thom was cool in his own way, and it created the role of a gleeman in this world is really important. This is part of their main entertainment, right? And this one, as well, helped solidify the Wheel of Time as a mostly medieval setting, which I'm sticking by the way, because...
I thought it was sci-fi.
No.
Sorry, post-apocalyptic or something like that.
No, you know why it's not post-apocalyptic?
Well, people are saying in the comments it is.
No, it's not. Because the civilization is completely stable. Post-apocalyptic is when civilization is still in shambles from an apocalypse. But if you go so far past the apocalypse, where it's built back up and it's perfectly... It's not post-apocalyptic anymore.
But they're saying
civilization has been stable for thousands of years. They've had their own wars and everything like that. This is thousands and thousands and thousands of years after the apocalypse stage of this world, where they've had nations rise and fall multiple times since that apocalypse. So this is fantasy. Obviously, it's high fantasy, and you are very justified in saying it is medieval fantasy for reasons I've explained already. And the Gleeman role is exactly one of those. Traveling troubadours, like, they have court bards in this world. That's so medieval. Like, and so Thom Merrilin, I can't express how horrendous. Now, this is the thing. If I was to separate myself from my love for the books, maybe he's a cool. You could like.
Your voice sounded constipated.
I know. I was like, I can't say it without gagging because I hate how different he is. But if you knew nothing about the books, that's why I was asking you guys.
Dude, I know nothing about the books, and even I didn't like him in the first episode he's in.
Yeah,
Really?
the first one I didn't like.
I didn't like him at all. He was cringe. He was like
he was
mopey.
too edgy. Like,
Too
he was
mopey.
Like trying to be
Cringe
cool,
edgy.
mopey. Yeah.
Cringe
But
edgy, yeah.
I didn't like him. Like if he had left, I would have been fine on him off screen.
Yeah, I didn't like him on screen. He's like, oh, I'm gonna rob you, but at the same time, I still like you, and I'm still gonna be nice to you.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I didn't necessarily like Thom Merrilin at the beginning of the book, but he becomes important, and he grows on you, and what he does to the characters, and then his persona becomes distinct. This is who Thom Merrilin is. And so as a fan of the books, we want to see an adaptation that when we're watching it, we feel like this is the Wheel of Time. This is like it's a slap in the face to the fans. What do you want to be edgy and cool? It's like, no, trust the original writing. This show, if you don't think Thom Merrilin would have, as depicted in the books, wouldn't have worked, you don't trust the source material and you don't respect it. This is one of the biggest signs where I do not trust the showrunner for actually respecting the source, because look what they did to Tom. This is like hashtag not my Tom.
This is why the dragon will be a woman. This is why. They'll keep doing this, Shad.
Wow.
They will
If
not
they
stop.
do, like I said, well, you know what'll happen.
Shad's gonna go on a killing spree.
Crusade, mate, crusade. I won't kill anyone.
Okay. Just severely grazed testicles.
Metaphorically, go on a crusade.
You'll destroy them with facts and logic.
Exactly. Call them out on their craft. And it's shocking how different he is. Like, again, think about this flamboyant man who talks a bit like this, and he has this big curly moustache, and he has this cloak that he always throws out and fluffs because it's got the patchwork thing, and he does these chant performances in high chant or low chant, and he is a storyteller, and he...
But no, now I'm an edgy man.
Now I'm this guy that talks like this, and when I sing, I'm like...
I'm watching you, Wazowski.
Always watching.
I mean, what about his singing?
Awful.
Awful?
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I was like, this is like rocks grating on a cat, or like getting a cat, grating it on a cheese grinder. But it was low picture. It's like, you know, man, they're trying to make him into a cowboy or something. It's like
blues crap, yeah.
He's a performer and he's gonna get by and make a living off of that.
I'll pay you to stop playing.
Well, it didn't fit the world either, because everyone's all depressed and dark in the area. You want a Gleeman to
Yeah, to light it up, and he
was just
comes in
thinking
and
that.
just is this depressing
And they're
song.
like, alright, after that.
And when the song ends, no one cheers or anything because it's a depressing, horribly sounding song, and everyone's just like, and
Give me alcohol.
Dude, I'd take a knife and be like, better luck next turn. I mean, it's an option.
Well, I just like how you integrated the world building.
There you go.
You know, turning of the wheel, and it's just like, you know, you respect the source material more than the creators.
Yep. I confidently commit suicide in that world.
It was so bad. Look, even his guitar, like,
I was like, this is medieval. That is not a...
yeah, like, seriously, the
Give him
show,
the loops.
if you want to argue about medieval Renaissance and all that stuff, right, even if this was a Renaissance setting, Thom Merrilin comes in like he walked out of a Western, okay? He did not look like he fit in this world at all, all right? And then, let's go further. The show, so far, is depicting a very medieval world. We see medieval villages, medieval technology. We haven't seen any Renaissance, anything, really. Like, the villages, the clothing, the weapons, the technology. The show is absolutely, so far, a medieval fantasy. And then we see a cowboy walk in wearing this cowboy duster and this modern guitar.
When I think back to when he walked in, I'm hearing Spurs in my head now.
Yeah, I think there was even spurs chinking when he walked. That's how much of a cowboy they wanted to make him. He's horrible.
To be fair, it was 150 years ago, so it is the medieval period, basically.
What are you talking?
I'm messing with you.
Don't do this to me. And the worst thing, I think the actor probably could have pulled off the original Thom Merrilin.
No, yes.
He can do the kind of seriousness and the backstory we see in episode 4. Like, the actor can do stuff.
He can act.
And so, I have a bias that's so strong that even if this character ends up being legitimately cool, I'm not going to like him because Godfather scene.
Look how they massacred you, my boy.
What did they do to my boy? Tom. So Tom is not in this show. This is not Tom. This is a complete recreation, skin suit wearing husk bullcrap that's trying to pretend to be the character.
And this is only episode 3.
So the only way I could appreciate this new character is if I divorce this is not Tom. It's not. This is just a new character with the same name. That's unfortunately trying to fill the same role in the story that the original Tom did.
So it has the same name, performs the same task, has
to.
the same profession, but...
I wouldn't know. The profession isn't the same. Like, it's called the same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And he can't do that. His singing is real bad.
They took the Gleeman and just turned him into a min.
Gosh. And the other thing... So one thing that they did do wrong about Tom's character, Tom robs them.
Yeah.
He's a bit handsy, okay, but he was never overtly like I'll rob people if you don't, give me the money for my performance.
Didn't they make a point of them killing thieves? The lady, the woman who runs the bar was like, "We kill thieves around here. You'll get killed."
And they didn't kill the guy that originally stole, or the.
I missed that. Yeah, where Matt comes in and says, "I'm going to get back here whether I have to cheat, beg, or steal." It's like, if you steal, you'll be killed here. When we see two people overtly steal in front of everyone, people see it and not point it out, and that's. Oh wow. Oh, good catch there. Good catch.
I thought you guys were going to say something.
You were watching that one.
No, I'm glad you caught that because, again, this is something the writers absolutely should, because this is a massive world-building contradiction, right?
Oh, Gleeman's dead. Oh, wait, he's not. He's fine. They all loved it. Oh, man. To be fair, no one else paid him for his performance.
So there's a character missing in this episode. Perrin and Egwene were actually supposed to meet a cool character called Elias. Elias. Really important for Perrin's progression. Now they're probably just going to have Perrin's progression happen. He just figures it out himself, which is... It's just like...
I'm just sitting here thinking, they have all of this space, this dead space of them walking around mopey, when they could have done it, them walking around meeting interesting characters.
And you can combine some of the world building that they did with the meeting of characters by being... You can do this. Have certain scenes do more than one thing. It's just you have to be a good writer to pull stuff.
But they're not, Shad. They're awful. They suck. They suck so bad.
No, because there are some signs of a good line here and there. So.
I said it before, Shad, and I'll say it again, and I'm always right. They suck butts. They're really bad at what they do. You should be writing this. I could probably write this. I haven't read the bloody thing.
You just read the wiki article.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you had a good point there. I was going to say they cut Elias because of brevity, but you're right. There are some more points in this thing where not much is really happening. They could have combined Elias with the Tinkers as well. Elias could have already been there, because in the book they have a whole separate thing where they meet Elias and they have to spend a couple of nights with him, and then they meet the Tinkers, and Elias actually, where they have the interaction with the Tinkers, do you know the song? And they're like, don't know what to say.
Yeah.
In the book, Elias knows exactly what to say, and they watch Elias do it. It's like, do you know the song? And Elias gives the exact right words and everything, and they connect, and Elias lets them know Tinkers and stuff. But so they had to cut that and adapt accordingly, but they could have included Elias with the time that they had in, I think. And Elias isn't a huge character. He comes up again a bit later on, but is really important for Perrin's progression. Like, really important. But no, they cut it.
Nope. Ask Oz and Nathan.
Is Matt coming off as unlikable?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a problem because in the book, Matt is likable, he's cheeky, and then that means when he starts to go downhill for reasons that you're hinting at in episode 4 already, you have faith that he's not a horrible character. Just something in the story is happening to him. So far, there's not much redeeming him in terms of his charm, his cheekiness, or he's just mopey, depressed. Now he's complaining, and he's like, even though what he's getting in Rand's face is like, well, you said you'll do this, do it yourself and stuff. It's justified with what should be happening with his character now. At this point, the audience isn't going to know it's justified, and it's actually in line with his crappy attitude so far. And so he's an unlikable character as a result. And that's what your guys' impressions has been. So I kind of hope that the new actor that's cast as Matt in season 2 will bring the character up. I don't know his name, but
I'm gonna check it out.
The character's recast. This actor is gone, and the new actor, he already looks more cheeky. It's like hopefully they'll be able to do something good with Matt, because Matt really picks up later, like about by the third book. Like something happens to him, he obviously needs to deal with it, but once he becomes all Matt is just great.
Yeah, I guess that works.
That's the new guy. That guy looks way more like. I've seen a better picture of him, but yeah, there's like this cheeky look that he's got in him. When they're out chopping wood, they're talking about where they're going, right? And going to Tarvolin. Rand is going there for Egwene, and I think it was Matt that says, "I wouldn't go there for you," or something like why. And again, it's just a complete confusion of the motivations. Like, no, you're trying to escape Trollocs, but they forget it. And then Rand just calls him, "You're such a prick." It's like, again, modern language. I can't stand it, and it's making Matt come off really negatively.
What would they call him? A nerf herder or something like?
I can't remember all the terminology, but there's in-world, But like Egwene, for instance, always calls Rand a woolhead because they're sheep herders, and so there's this affectionate kind of endearing term that Lan in the books calls Rand sheep herder, and it's actually, and he stays consistent with it, and it actually gets this kind of familiarity between Lan and Rand, and it works well, and so we don't get that. Instead, it's like, you're a prick.
If only there was a shorthand for sheep herder.
One thing I did notice in this, like Perrin, the guy who's acting is really tall, and you see the size difference between Perrin and Egwene.
Yeah.
And I was like, good. I was worried that he wasn't bulked up enough, and I think he could bulk up in muscles, but he's got the height Perrin needs. And that's like, okay. So again, something they got right with Perrin. Perrin is, I think the actor is owning that role of Perrin quite well. I actually, in episode 4, I have some concerns that rise up about what would logically Perrin do based on his motivations, based on his still dealing with the fact that he killed his wife. Because, the Way of the Leaf comes up in episode 4. We'll talk about that.
The Way of the Leaf. Oh, yeah, the leaf doesn't...
So the Tinkers are pacifists. They won't be violent towards anyone. And there is, like, some conflict between Perrin, that ideology, when it's proposed to Perrin and stuff. But now there's a big difference with with Perrin's backstory. And so, like I said, episode 4, when they're first introduced to the Tinkers, what was your feeling about them when they walk out of the mist?
They're all gypsies.
Yeah, gypsies, other wandering tribes.
To me, they came off creepy and sinister.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that shouldn't be how the Tinkers would be introduced, I feel.
Do you know the song? If I don't, you're going to kill me?
Yeah. Like, do you know the song? You guys just kind of appeared out of nowhere, and now you're... Yeah. I think that was just a bit too creepy and stuff.
And also they kept going on like, yes, we're the Tinkers. We steal your gold and kill your children. Like, dude.
You're not helping us trust you there, right?
Put a bit more sarcasm into that.
Because this is the thing, Tinkers are distrusted by people, and that's the rumour about Tinkers, right? The thing is, though, in every time you meet them in the book, they are so nice and caring, and it's like you realise that, these are just bad rumours. in the show actually are acting creepy, and then they didn't naturally introduce the rumors, and so they had the character have to say it like is a bit jaded about their reputation, like, yeah, we're all this and that. But you're right, that would just make me like,
Okay, if you say so.
All right.
you know, it's not helping dispel that. They do better with the Tinkers in episode 4 than in episode 3. So the innkeeper.
Yep.
Right up until the point where she loses the plot and goes evil, I actually felt her depiction was pretty good.
Okay.
She had personality, there was good characterization, she wasn't just a bland innkeeper where she's like, you know, if you think I don't drink on the job, you're sorely mistaken or something. Like, there was some actually good characterization.
No, she was lame.
Really?
Why? Why was she
She was
lame?
just the whole, you know, there's a Tumblr girl trying to write the cool girl. It was just cringe.
You reckon?
Yeah, man.
I don't know.
It was like,
I think there was
I
some...
talk back and I'm... Blah, 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 blah. Shut up!
No, she had personality.
No,
It
she had
shouldn't
no
have been good.
personality. She's a Tumblr girl. She's a Tumblr girl that worked at a bar, written by a Tumblr girl that works at Amazon.
No, I disagree.
Fine. Comments, what do you think?
Yes, let us know in the comments. So, Nynaeve helps Moiraine. Lan goes off and separates,
Okay.
right? And is basically tracking for help.
Yeah.
And then he eventually finds him and comes back and he says, I found exactly what I need. Okay. I'm so glad they did this. Like, bad writing would be, oh man, we're in such trouble. What are we going to do? Oh, luckily, Ice and I just literally travel by exactly where we are. Or we're traveling on the road and we just run into them magically, which is... I like that they were aware enough that that would be such a plot hole of convenience, where Lan actually needed to go and look and he was scouting. There's a level of convenience that they're in the general vicinity, but at least it's not so... Oh, we just run into it. He needed to go something. They show him tracking. He finds them, and then they go out of their way to get to where the Ice and I are.
To be fair, they did run into the White Cloaks in the exact same convenient circumstance.
Yeah,
And
true.
they conveniently didn't get asked the one question that the
True,
Ice and I would
true.
not be able to contradict. So, like, the writers don't care. It's just one thing. They're like, oh, hey, let's do it this way. As opposed to the way we did it the first time.
At least they did it this way this time.
Yeah, but still, it's like, don't give them points for that.
If they do something good, I'm going to acknowledge it.
No, if they do something bad, that's a negative point. If they do what they're meant to do, that's fine. If they do something great, then I'm going to give them a point.
Actually, you have a fair point. It's like, we shouldn't acknowledge base level.
Yeah.
Like, this should be just normal. You
Like,
know.
I didn't get points
But
at school.
the thing is, just normal average writing is still like a fresh water in a drought these days, because we don't even get... everything is so bad these days, is that even average writing is like, oh...
I don't see it as a drought.
Water.
I see we're underwater in sewage, and trying to take a drink of that is not going to be good for you.
So, I don't know why they're avoiding mentioning that they're from Two Rivers. You notice that? It's like, where are you from? And they say they're from Merrilin, which is a town that actually, I think it was I know Rand and Matt visit this town, and they, again, character we haven't run into, they ran into a very important character called Min in Merrilin. I think, I can't pronounce it right, but it was like a mining town. That was like the town that I first thought that was going to be Merrilin, but it's not. I was like, oh, so we're not going to meet Min now. And Min is basically she becomes almost a main character, by the way. That's how important Min is. But we don't see her, so they're obviously going to introduce her later, because you can't cut Min from the... Oh, if they combine Min with...
Oh, they're going to combine me with another character?
It's possible to combine a couple of female characters, and...
Surely.
Oh, they
not.
wouldn't do that. No.
Sure.
No, they
Males,
wouldn't.
maybe.
No, you know, there's a reason why. It's to avoid something that they would consider misogynistic. So, I'll avoid spoilers as best I can, and I don't think it's going to be a spoiler for a show, because I think it's already on record they're not going to do it.
Yep.
One of the main characters ends up in a polygamous relationship.
Yeah, that's not going to be on Amazon.
You're wrong. Because they see sex differently from us too.
Yeah, but
But, no, I think they're okay with the reverse, you know, one woman having multiple men, but they're not okay with one man having multiple women. That's generally misogynistic, according to mainstream feminism, I believe.
Hey, that's... I can't stand how they think.
And I think it's already on record that is going to be cut. Now, the thing is, the book actually portrays it really well, because this is world building stuff. It's not actually a spoiler because it's background world building. An important race, like a civilization of people in this world, practice polygamy. It's the Aiel. It's common for the Aiel for one man to have more than one wife, and they're called sister wives. I think that, or is it? I forget what they're called. Because I think Sister Wives is from is a show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? So I'm getting that mixed up.
That's what people think about regular Mormons. We're not like that.
Yeah, we're not.
Those are just some weird guys. They do their own thing.
Well, the funny thing is, so Mormons back in the day did practice polygamy, but so did a lot of other people in the US.
Yeah, the Muslims did.
In fact, there
did.
was a high percentage of people of other Christian faiths practicing polygamy than Mormons at the same time.
But it's all put on us to this day.
It's funny. So, and by the way, like Abraham and Moses had more than one wife.
Yeah.
And so if Christians, they need to marry the fact in the Bible that God in some way is okay with polygamy under some circumstances. Otherwise, Abraham, Moses were doing so, and of course Jacob, who became Israel, were doing some pretty bad things. So deal with that, Christians. We're okay. Mormons have it explained.
Well, you see, some Christians who I've talked to have said, oh yeah, well they're always portrayed in the Bible to be bad people.
What, Abraham?
That's my point.
Who's sitting on the right hand of God in visions?
That's what I said.
And Moses, are you kidding me?
They were bad people.
Oh.
And you know the thing? The people I had that discussion with are watching this video.
Sorry.
Yeah, laugh at them.
Yeah, sorry.
Because I keep talking to them about things you've told me, and they're like, wait, no, but this. I'm like, yeah, but this, and this. I'm like, so laugh at them.
So, anyway, we got distracted. Aiel, actually, polygamy is fine and prominent and stuff. And one of the girls that this character becomes involved in is an Aiel, right? And so she actually is like okay with it, and she explains it to the other girls, and they sell it fine in the book. I have heard rumor that they're cutting it, and if they're going to cut it, they might actually combine some of those characters. And if they do, like, so instead of having multiple, girls, is like there's just going to be one character that's a mishmash, or they might combine two of the characters and have the third not falling in love. But anyway, changes from the book. They don't respect the source material. They're too afraid of modern sentiment and other things like that. And if they do that, again, you friggin' suck!
So here's the thing, though. Does the misogyny, so would they rather have the misogyny of, a guy having more than one wife, or they do the misogyny of combining different female characters into one?
Because I feel that's a disservice to the female characters.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
which one are they going to pick?
It's like,
The latter.
isn't that worse than fridging? Just like taking away the agency and independence of the whole character and just meshing certain qualities in another.
Finally, they've given me something unpredictable.
Let's solve this one, Oz.
Quite elementary. No, ignore that. Alright.
So, again, they don't respect the source material, and if they make that change, and there are signs that those changes might already be in place.
Hey, apparently, people have been saying in the comments that Brandy Sandy, good old Brandy Sanderson, has been saying that he's been making comments about the show.
He's been on Reddit. And he actually, I haven't read them, I've only heard people quote him on our comments thread, so I can't take him as accurate, so I can just report this is what I've heard, but that there are changes he was suggesting. I remember I called, I said I put money that he would have advised against certain changes, and
they
he
probably would have said, okay, thanks, we'll take that under advisement.
And then they didn't listen to him on
Yeah.
a few things. And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. One of the biggest things that he was against was Perrin's wife. I find it interesting that so far I think that is working. But it might not with what's going on in episode 4. And Brandon's reasons are really solid. He says, I don't think you have the time to go through the emotional, Perrin can't process that emotion adequately enough to have the story continue on as normal. It's too heavy. It's too
a man accidentally kills his wife. You can't just get over that in a series.
And so far I thought they were dealing with it, except in episode 4 something comes up that, according to where Perrin's at right now with what he's done, if he was being true to what's going through in his head, it could possibly, if they won't do it, but logically it would have derailed his whole character. So now they're not really going to show him dealing with that emotion properly, like what Brandon was warning about. He knows what he's talking about, okay? we don't see Berlon. And there was this great point in where Matt sees some white cloaks in the city, and he pranks them. And and they end up getting chased, and they're all running away from it. And it was a great moment where you see Matt's cheekiness, or he does a prank. Like, his white cloaks thinks they're so high and mighty, and so Matt's like, all right, I'll get them. And
what does he do?
Like, he gets up on a rooftop or something, and I can't remember, because it's been a long time. And was it dunking water on them or something like that? Or, yeah, it's just, it was a prank. But they end up having to run away.
Just a prank, bro.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure Moiraine was with them at that time, because Moiraine actually wanted to speak with Min. And so this might have been before they were separated. But that's cut, okay? And so we don't see Min. Matt meets Thom Merrilin. And Tom points out it's from Two Rivers. Matt's like, how do you know from Two Rivers? It's like, it's written all over you, lad. And he says, in your speech, your dress, your stubbornness, and also that asinine attitude.
I thought it was just saying, and also that ass.
So question. Did any of you pick up a different accent in the characters compared to any other character we've seen in this show?
No, they all sound various different types of British.
So, again...
In Game of Thrones, they do it really well.
This is... like... The character's trying to point out something that doesn't exist. The only thing that makes the Two Rivers people mildly distinct is what they're wearing. They're wearing a lot of wool. And that makes sense. Two Rivers, they're called wool heads, they're sheep farmers, they're, okay, wool, all right? But I haven't seen them act any way necessarily distinct, or there's no accent. And so the things Tom points out doesn't work. Because, in the book, the way that the Two Rivers people are identified more easily, you can guess.
They clap a lot?
No.
Wow.
It's their appearance.
Oh.
Their hair, eye colour, and skin tone.
What's their skin tone?
Well, we figured that out in the potential problems with it. The book is actually quite clear. It is tanned, pale skin.
That's weird, though, because I saw a lot of brown people, Asian people. That's so odd.
Well, then Tom actually points out even something more that is lore in the show now. He says, not many things outside of accent and dress can distinguish people in the world.
Oh, woke. Oh, wash all over me, woke.
Yeah.
Oh, so dirty, the wokeness.
So that can justify their representation.
Any race can be from any place, yeah.
But the book isn't like that.
I know.
Because Tyrians are darker skinned. And when he says that, I'm thinking, okay, how are you going to justify people like the Tyrian, the Aiels, also the Shonshen? Holy crap, right? So I think they're actually not going to be true to that, because Tom also says usually you can't identify, but then he says, but it is rare to see this shade of hair, and he points to the hair of the Aiel, because the Aiel, this is interesting. They want a more diverse cast in the show, but they are aware that there are some instances that they can't get away with it, like the Aiel.
Oh, don't put it past them, Shad.
Well, we'll see. Because the Aiel, it's such an important plot point that they are they're very pale and they have ginger hair.
Well, okay, so in terms of the diversity, right? Certain areas in fantasy places represent, the Western world. Like, in Game of Thrones, Westeros obviously represents the West. Yeah. And so everyone there is white, right?
And in the book, it's pretty clear. Even though there are exceptions and there are people of different colours in the book, overall, the larger majority of the nations are represented by having distinct ethnicities.
That's my point. That's my point, though. In our world, our Western world is more diverse than the Eastern world and all that. So what they're going to do is, in the areas that are meant to be representative of the West, like the Two Rivers, they will be diverse places. But in the places that are meant to represent foreign places, like in our world, like the East, they will be, more homogenous.
It'll be interesting.
That's what they'll do.
Because that means do they have... I don't need or want this. I want it to be accurate to the books. That's my thing. And I like that it's more realistic, that different nations, obviously, especially in a world with more medieval technology, have a certain ethnicity tied to it, because even though people are travelling, and it's not travelling massive amounts, and so the book is very clear about the appearance of people, not only in skin colour, but just in the way their faces look. Like, Perrin points this out, where it's you know, they had the same, essentially it's like they just didn't have the truest look, but that was the defining thing, not the skin tone, so they were pale, he was talking about. And so they don't have that in the show for obvious, you know,
woke
reasons.
They have to be
gender-driven reasons.
Yeah.
But there is going to be an imbalance then, that certain countries, like, it's pretty, I think it's going to, I could put money on that the Borderlands are going to be very Asian.
Completely Asian.
And the Shonchen are going to be mostly black.
Yep.
And the Tyrants are going to be mostly black.
But the places that have white people,
But the places...
very diverse.
Because, like...
Because it needs to represent...
This isn't about needing white represent... I'm not about that. I'm about, are you going to be consistent?
No, they're not.
But,
they're not consistent about anything.
So yeah, now it is canon that for most people in the show version of the world, you can't really tell who's from who based on anything apart from accent and appearance, but they're not doing accent at all. Like, if you wanted to make that change, be consistent about it. But give the two, like, I mean, a good example, right? The Expanse, which is also on Amazon. The Belters all have a very distinct accent. Sasake, you from the border. They almost have this...
Like South African?
Well, no, it's almost
you a
like...
blonde?
It's sort of like Jamaican, Cajun kind of accent. But not exactly. They have a distinct accent, the Belters and stuff. And so you can pick out a Belter in the show easily by accent. But that's when people try and do they go the extra mile. I see no distinct accent tied to region at all in the show. And then a character points it out and I'm like...
Can't tell.
What are you talking about, mate? I'm not... Do I disbelieve my lying ears? You know,
They did it in Game of Thrones really well.
Did they?
Where all the people in the south, they all talk like this, and then in the north, they're like, "Oi, how you doing?" You know, it's like very...
King of the North!
King of the North!
It didn't stand out to me as much in Game of Thrones.
Really?
Like, I didn't see it.
Pay enough attention?
I didn't actually think, oh, there's a different accent to different people. Because I think about... Where did Oberon come from?
Oberon came from very down south.
Yeah. He had an accent, but did everyone...
They're meant to be Spanish.
Yeah.
He did. He sounded like this.
Yeah, he had an accent, but I can't remember if everyone had that accent.
Everyone from the south, from Dawn did, yeah. They're all Spanish, basically.
I kind of... Overall, I think it's a good place to have a dark friend appear in the show. You know?
I thought she was
But the
lame.
execution was horrible.
She didn't seem like a dark friend. She seemed like a Tumblr girl.
So she's exactly like a dark friend?
Well, what they evolved into, yeah, they did, didn't they? But no, it's just like...
No, not exactly. Dark friends are worse, obviously.
She was just cringe is all I'm saying.
I actually like the characterization in her. I guess we just have different views on that.
I'm sorry, if a girl pulls a sword on me and she looks like that,
This
I'm
is
just gonna
where we
grab it.
start to get off. This is where we get off the rails, yeah. Because when she announces she's the dark friend, the show gets nonsensical.
Why would they run from her?
Yeah, like, there are levels of dumb in what happens now, which is what makes this episode just almost fall off a cliff, aside from Thom and other things. So she announces the dark friend, like, she doesn't really announce she's a dark friend, but, you know, she's got nefarious, you know, she mentions she knows Egwene, how do you know him, and I'm after these people, and so Rand then goes for the sword. She gets the sword first, she kind of moves around, and she then gets the point where she's pointing the sword on him. That's a threatening position. Okay, it doesn't.
But you can just grab it.
No.
Yeah, you can. If she's a woman,
in the motion it takes to do that, it only takes to penetrate a little amount, and swords are very sharp to do like a sword is a force multiplier. Absolutely, women can be devastatingly lethal, and in HEMA tournaments, there are women that win HEMA tournaments that are mixed gender. Okay, a sword
mixed
is
gender.
Mixed gender.
Like male and female.
Oh, I thought you meant the person in
No.
the
No.
Oh, as you're going
So,
right now.
a weapon is a force multiplier, okay? It's
I
an
understand that a
equalizing
weapon's
force.
dangerous,
It's
but
an equalizing force, yes.
I have been hit by women before. With all their strength, it doesn't hurt.
Have you been hit by a woman with a sword? They're hitting
I'm
you with that sword?
confident in my ability to stop a woman from hitting me.
No. See, you have a point, but not right now. It's later on. See, when the sword is pointed on you, that's dangerous. That's where she has a bit of control. But then she legitimately pulls back. And as soon as she puts distance in them, this is where it gets nonsensical. Because Rand, you're not in a vulnerable position. She has a sword. Now this is where you can really overpower her. Okay? Like, there's a lot of situations where she turns her head, she looks away, or like multiple things.
Yeah, but surely if the sword is close to you, you stand a better chance at grabbing it than if she can swing it at you from further away.
If it's the point is touching and all she needs to do is that, it's quicker for her to do that than it is for you to raise her hand, knock her.
I don't think she'll be able to summon enough force to push it through you if it's already resting on you.
It doesn't. If it doesn't require much force.
It was a katana. It's a thick sword.
No, they can penetrate pretty well.
I'm just saying he could literally just go like that really quick. Like I can go.
Let's test it. I got a katana right now.
Like that instantly.
Oh, by the way, holding a sword like that, you have horrible leverage. Mythbusters have done the thing where trying to catch a sword like that, the sword goes straight.
All right,
through.
fine. How long is this sword? It's probably like arm length. He could probably just grab it.
A couple of things what he could do. Unless she's not looking, okay? Because you can grab it like that, even if it cuts you and push it aside. But what I'm saying is that the length of time it takes you to grab it is easy enough time for her to do a lethal thrust. The way you do it is move back. I can't remember if he was already against the wall. If he was against the wall, that's a bad position. If he wasn't, I would give you a yes. I would acknowledge that he could have done something. If he moved back and then tried to grab it, maybe he could have done something. Afterwards, when she actually moves away from him, this is when it gets nonsensical. Because in the larger scheme of things, he's taller, he's bigger, and he's a guy, right? Yeah. He would be able to overpower her quite easily, especially when she's looking away. And the amount of fear that the characters are giving this person is insane.
Nothing.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It becomes, this show becomes an absolute farce at this point. Nothing is indicated that this girl has any competency in combat. The books are very clear that girls can be nutcase fighters in this world. The Aiel. There's a whole thing, Spear Sisters, I forget their name, but they have their whole thing of female warriors, which are crazy tough and really talented and strong. And when it comes to weapons, girls can become really good at fighting because weapons are equalized, they're force multipliers. There are limitations and strength differences that need to be accounted for. I've done videos on this, and there are other videos made.
I've tried to counsel you for those.
But no, like in the videos where I've been saying, can women fight with swords? Like, I'm on their side in that sense. I'm an ally because I'm showing that yes, women can fight.
Yeah, but in terms of,
I do acknowledge that obviously there's a difference. Men are stronger than women.
With a sword, I mean, you're the expert, so tell me if I'm wrong. But for the most part, if you want to get a lethal cut or thrust, you need some to build up some momentum.
No. Against bare skin, going through clothing, if the sword has a good point on it, a big like that, straight on, can penetrate insane amounts.
Okay, but can a woman who's standing, just no spacing of her legs, nothing serious, she's just standing there with a sword at you, she can build up a lethal amount of force to push it through you. If
it's already touching and you can lean in, if the sword is sharp enough, it'll just slide right in.
You're the sword man, but I don't believe that. I don't
test it.
I don't believe a woman could literally, just from a standing position with a sword already on you, can just lean forward and stab it into you.
No, I'm saying like push with the lean.
I think a guy could stop her before she did that.
Oz, we could go outside on Boromir, the test dummy, grab one of the sharp swords, and if we lean in, it'll go in.
Do you want to stand behind Boromir and try and stop you? I don't think that's a good idea.
No,
but you're a man. I'm saying this girl who works at a bar.
No, because, this is the point where I was also making before. There's no indication she has any combative training.
Yeah.
Okay? And so as soon as she gets the distance, and because my point is, when the sword was on her, the writers had more validity to try and justify her being a threat. And especially if she held...
If it was at the throat, I'd agree. I'd agree.
They could have done something like that. Throat is really dangerous, right?
Yeah, but the sternum...
And so you would agree, if it was on the throat, you just lean and you can slice it.
Yeah, if it was the throat, I'd be like, yeah, dude, don't move, right? Okay. But it's on the sternum, I'd just be like, got it. Problem solved. Got it, and then I'd pull her close and knock her out.
It's extremely risky. I wouldn't say it's a guaranteed fact you would die. I'd think, but from her position, she can produce lethal force without much difficulty.
Question: if a woman had a kitchen knife, really sharp kitchen knife, and held it to you like that, would you prefer she hold it to you like that or hold it behind her back? Which would you prefer?
Hang on, what are you talking about?
Let's say a woman is threatening you.
No, the positioning you're talking about, behind her back.
No, let's say a woman is threatening you. She's like, pretend I'm a woman, okay? Not that hard. Would you prefer I have the knife here and you feel safer, or I have the knife over here? Which one makes you feel safer?
Actually, it feels over there.
Really?
Because I can block it. If you try and swing it in, I have multiple ways to try and prevent that or move it out of the set.
I'd feel safer.
If it's pointed on me, Oz, there is vastly less time needed to penetrate my skin than if it was...
But she has vastly less...
No. If her arm is further away, there's more time needed to close that distance. That gives me more options to be able to defend
But
myself.
she can still move it really fast with lots of momentum and stab you. But if it's right here, I can just go, got it. Problem solved.
In that same time, she could have penetrated like that far into your chest.
Doubt it. If she doesn't know I'm going to do it, I can just be like, got it instantly.
But you don't. If she starts like, I'm not saying it's impossible that you could do that, Oz. I'm saying it's vastly more dangerous, and there's more justification for the writers to say that Rand could believe it was too threatening to act at that point. Okay?
Let's hear the comments down below. What do you people think?
Of course, it would have been vastly better if it was on the throat.
Oh yeah. If it was on the throat, no problem.
Yeah, but when she moves away, that's when there's really no excuses. Like, Rand, you have so many options. Pick up a friggin' chair. Like, you got all this stuff around you, right? And you could overpower her in many ways. She has no training. She's a bar woman, right?
She couldn't even cook stew. She mixed the old stew in with the new stew. That's disgusting.
So another thing that, going back to this scene, the door is locked. She locked him in with her. That's almost as much of a threat to her than it is to him. Just because she's holding a sword. Like I said, there's so many things that he can use as a weapon to knock her out. Like, and most guys, because we get in like tussles and stuff like that, I've been in threatening situations and everything. And if I was in a situation like that, even if she has a sword, I'd be cautious. She has a sword, right? But I would still feel quite confident in my ability to
disarm her.
Yeah.
Unless it was Ronda Rousey, then I'd be worried.
Yes, exactly. And this is clearly not Ronda Rousey or an Ayi.
It's not.
Like, it's really not.
It's more like Ronda Lousy.
So something bizarre happens. She says that the door is locked and 3 men twice as strong as him wouldn't be able to knock it down.
That's what I'm saying.
And then he proceeds to knock it down. And so I'm confused now as a viewer. Does this mean either Rand is really strong or she was lying? And if she was lying, like, maybe it was a bluff to make him not attack the door, but...
Maybe it's his magic power?
I don't know.
Was it his magic power? You know this, Shad. Was it his magic power? I can see it in you.
No, I don't think it was. Well, I don't know. Like, we haven't seen overt signs of any of the
Is he the dragon? Is it Matt or Rand?
I'm not saying. You don't know. What do you think?
I think it's the woman.
You think it's the woman? But no, like, if someone isn't trained in combat and stuff and they don't know how to tussle and someone has a sword against them...
If a man hasn't been in a fight in his life, they're weak men. No offense, Nathan. Just saying.
Why do you think Nathan has been in a fight?
Have you been in fights, Nathan?
Yeah.
How many?
Oh, not that many. Only 1 or 2.
I was going to say, your teeth are still pretty. You haven't been in many fights.
Well, your teeth are just messed up.
I know.
Like,
I've been in many fights.
It's this weird, jagged thing.
I know. I'm cosplaying as Venom.
It's like I'm looking at a cheese grater that went through a trash compactor.
That's very polite. I'm out of drinks. I can't just drink it off, can I?
Sorry.
That's fine. I'll get you back somehow.
So Rand knocks it down, right? And then again, watching it, even my wife watching this was like, this is really dumb. Like, she pointed this out. He gets out, he meets up with Matt, and he says, "She's got my sword! Run!" There's 2 of you now. It's not a gun! Okay. Better yet, if she had like a crossbow on it.
Yeah.
Like, crossbow.
Even then, it's only 1 shot, so...
I don't know, you don't want to get shot by a crossbow.
You don't, but you're rolling the dice. You know?
Like, and then that would work for the runaway. She's crazy and she's got a crossbow that she's trying to, you know.
Running away, I mean, you'd zigzag, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Like, but run! She's got a sword. It's like, there's 2 of you now. You're both big boys. Like, you could easily just disarm her. Like, it made them look really weak and cowardly. Like, it did not look good for these characters, being so afraid of this little girl with a sword who isn't trained in it and not threatening. Kid in the back. Yeah, they're running away like she's a Fade or Trolloc. Like, they're like totally scared.
What's out?
It's funny because episode 4, spoilers, he walks up to the Fade. The Fade, he's like, "I see you." They're like, "Oh my goodness!" But they ran in terror from that girl, like pure terror.
And it's pretty much like, you know, Fades, servants of the dark, insanely dangerous.
Trollocs.
Like, what they are? Girl with sword, run!
Classic.
She gets in front of them somehow. Like, they don't portray that she has supernatural powers or abilities or strengths or anything, but anyway, she gets in front of them. Maybe she heads them off because she knows the alleyways. And then she gives this interesting explanation. She says that she's basically, turning the wheel is just perpetuating suffering, and the Dark One will end it all and everything. Most Dark Friends are Dark Friends because of the promise of immortality. It's just a weird justification if you're going to look at the books. I'm not saying a Dark Friend couldn't have that motivation, but this is the Dark Friend that's supposed to represent the methodology, the reasons behind Dark Friends in the show now. And a lot of them are just there because they get into it sometimes by accident. They want immortality and they make certain promises and oaths, and then they get locked in and stuff. And the book is so good with how it deals with Dark Friends. There's so many have these horrible ends, and it's wholly their own fault. And so the book really gives a lot of Dark Friends what they deserve, and it's on them. And this is our first time to see a Dark Friend, and it's just a little, weird motivations, trying to make them more sympathetic, and it's the Dark Friends are not good. Stop trying to make it. Anyway. And then, of course, she calls the Dark One, not the Great Lord, which is a contradiction, like Dark Friends, I'm not saying no Dark Friends did, but if you're going to be introducing this as the Dark Friend, it'd be good to see that difference. See this one refer to the Dark One as the Great Lord, as they often do. And then I think you can justify this, say, from Thom Merrilin, it isn't necessarily Deus Ex Machina. He was already wanting to keep tabs on these young boys and stuff.
Yeah, but why?
The interaction that Tom had with Matt, I think, is enough to justify it in this instance. It's this guy is on it, is in a rough time. We see why. He starts to identify these young guys with not only himself, but I think it was his nephew as well.
Yeah, but how does he know they're magic?
He doesn't yet. Well,
why is he helping him?
Because they're in a tough spot, and he
being chased. If two guys are being chased by a girl, I'd assume they did something wrong.
With a sword?
Yeah.
Usually people would, honestly.
Yeah. No, I would.
But no, she announces that she is a Dark Friend, and that's why he kills her.
She's chasing after him, saying, "I'm a Dark Friend. I'm a Dark Friend."
No. When she captures her, she talks to him and says she's a Dark Friend.
Okay, so it's coincidental then. The guy just happens to be there and hear it.
Well, if you heard the commotion of the running beforehand.
So he chased them then?
Who did?
He saw the girl chasing the two guys, chased after them, heard them say that.
Maybe.
Very realistic.
No, I think...
That just comes off as completely natural.
No, there are far worse moments of just convenience in shows than this. I think you can give this one a pass.
So reasonably, he saw them being chased by the girl, decided to follow by chasing as well, and then heard her say that.
It's not... They running through the town.
Why didn't he do something before that?
Well, he probably thought that they might have done something wrong.
He chased after them, stayed silent the whole time, then heard Dark Friend immediately just threw the knife.
Yeah, why not?
Because it's if you wanted to intervene...
Dark Friend? Yeah, that's a kill the person.
If you wanted to intervene, you would have. If you didn't want to intervene, why would you care in the first place?
Are you saying you've never seen a commotion happen, have any measure of curiosity just to see what's going on, not necessarily intending
I didn't chase them through 4 city blocks.
But if he's concerned about what's happening with these young guys, see them being chased by the barmaid with a sword, that would definitely... In fact, I would say not enough people react to it, because it's what the hell is going on?
I once sprinted from an Italian restaurant in Perth CBD all the way home about 45 minutes. Not a single person chased me. So, no one cares about it, especially in a town or city.
If it was a small town, they know who the barmaid is, and it's causing if it's out of the ordinary, like someone chasing someone with a sword, I think that would justify more people.
Based on that, the guys would have been tackled.
Probably.
Yeah, and it didn't happen.
Look,
anyway.
But the thing is, the fact that Tom sees it and follows it...
I just don't like you defending the show's crappy writers, is all.
No, I'll defend it when I feel it's justified. Look, I go after it as hard as anyone when it's bad, okay?
Do you though?
Harder than you.
Not harder than me. No one goes harder than me. I'm the hardest person. I go the... Yeah.
Okay, so, thing is though, she dies instantly when the knife goes through her throat. That would take a lot longer. And she wouldn't just drop... It would be shocking, but you'd take a bit more longer to bleed out. They react like she was just shot through the head. But then we come to the end of the episode.
Thank goodness.
Well, I mean, the very end of the episode is that Moiraine, Lan, and Nynaeve come across the Aes Sedai with a thing which sets up the episode. But oh boy, there's episode 3, and it goes off a cliff towards the end. It's pretty bad.
Like Thelma and Louise.
What did you think of Wheel of Time episode 3? Let us know in the comments, and we'll hope to see you on the next review of Wheel of Time. So until then, stay watchful.